A werewolf shifter romance written by Katherine Stewart. Prologue. The scent of moonflowers, usually a sweet, calming blanket over the Moonflower Creek Pack's hidden village, was tonight laced with an acrid undertone. Fear. Lyra, her silver-tipped fur gleaming faintly in the light of the twin moons, nuzzled her 6-year-old daughter Elara closer. So close. Elara, all gangly limbs and eyes wide with the stories of the elders, clutched a smooth, river-worn stone. Her listening stone, she called it. "Time for sleep, little Bloom," Lyra murmured. Her heart, a tight knot of anxiety she fought to conceal. For weeks, the whispers on the wind had been wrong. Terribly wrong. Carrying the scent of strange wolves, shadows moving just beyond their protected borders. Her mate, Ronan, was out with the patrol. His earlier attempt at a reassuring smile, it hadn't quite reached his eyes. The first scream ripped the night's fragile peace to shreds. It wasn't the cry of a forest creature. It was wolf, raw, agonized. Lyra was on her feet in an instant. Elara snatched against her chest. "Stay with me, little one." "Not a sound," she commanded, her voice a low, urgent growl that Elara had never heard before. The air, moments ago cool and fragrant, now thickened. The coppery tang of blood, the terrifying, unfamiliar scent of invading wolves. Hard, metallic, utterly without mercy. Panic erupted from the surrounding dens. Shadows, large and brutal, surged through the moonflower bushes, their forms indistinct, their intent horrifyingly clear. Snarls, the sickening thud of bodies colliding, yelps of the dying. The sounds painted a portrait of slaughter. Lyra saw Ronan then, a dark shape amidst the chaos, fighting, 2 massive gray-furred wolves. He met her eyes across the carnage, a desperate, silent plea in them. "Run!" Her heart fractured. Ronan. But Elara was her priority. The lineage, the future. "We have to go, Elara. Now!" She sprinted towards the ancient escape tunnel hidden behind the Elder's den, a path known only to a few. Elara, bless her brave heart, clung tight, her small face buried in Lyra's fur, only a stifled whimper escaping her. The tunnel. Damp, tight. The earthy smell a stark contrast to the bloodshed above. Behind them, the sounds of the attack, slightly muffled but no less terrifying. Lyra's lungs burned. Her muscles screamed. But she pushed on. On. They burst out into the relative quiet of the deep woods. But the orange glow of fire now painted the sky above their village. The smell of burning pine. And something sickeningly sweet. Burning homes. Burning flesh. Chasing them.
A massive figure blocked their path, stepping from behind a gnarled oak. Not gray, this one. Black as a starless night, with eyes that glowed a horrifying, intelligent crimson in the dim light. Alpha Kael. The name, whispered in hushed, fearful tones by traders who'd skirted his territory, slammed into Lyra's mind. The hunter. He'd found them. Kael's lips peeled back in a smile that held no warmth, only predatory triumph. The little moonflower Omega. And her pup. How convenient. His voice, smooth, cultured, a horrifying counterpoint to the death in his eyes. Lyra gently pushed Elara behind her. "Run, Elara," she whispered, her voice shaking but firm. She pressed the smooth, slightly warm river stone harder into Elara's small palm. "Hold this. Never let it go. It will guide you. Hide who you are, little Bloom. Survive. Survive. And remember." Elara looked up, her eyes huge, reflecting the distant fires, the immediate terror. "Mama? I love you more than all the stars," Lyra choked out, then spun, launching herself at Kael with a desperate, defiant roar. She was no match for his size, his raw power. But she fought with the fury of a mother protecting her child, the ancient power of her lineage, a faint, shimmering aura around her. Kael's crimson eyes noted it with keen interest before he struck. The pain, a white-hot explosion. Then, a spreading cold. As darkness claimed her, Lyra's last conscious thought was of a small, silver-furred figure scrambling into the dense undergrowth, clutching a smooth stone, the distant, terrible glow of crimson eyes already seared into her child's memory. The forest, a labyrinth of terror for the child. Branches tore at her fur, roots tripped her small paws, echoing snarls, screams from her burning village, propelling her onwards. All she knew was her mother's last desperate command, the feel of the warm stone in her paw, and the indelible image of those burning crimson eyes. Elara tried to be small, like a pebble no one sees, because if they saw her, the hurt came. Her home was the Shadow Creek Pack, but it never felt like home. Truth be told, it felt like a cage, made of mean words and cold looks. She missed her real mom and dad, but their faces were like a dream she couldn't quite catch, just scary red fire, and a soft song that made her heart ache so much. Maybe it was fate that she ended up here, scrubbing pots that were never clean enough for Cassia. Cassia was another Omega, but she acted like a queen. Her words were sharp, like little stones she threw at Elara. "Look at the orphan," Cassia would sneer, her voice loud for everyone to hear. "Still playing with that dumb rock, Elara? Did you find it in the dirt? Where you belong?" And then Elara would clutch the smooth, cool stone in her pocket. Tighter. It was her only treasure, a gift from her real mama. Sometimes, when she was very sad, the stone felt a tiny bit warm. Was that just her hand, or something more? She didn't know. More importantly, Elara had a secret spot. Moments later, after the chores were done, and Cassia was busy bossing someone else, Elara would slip away. Her secret spot, a tiny grove hidden deep in the woods, where old trees whispered to the wind. In fact, it was the only place her wolf, a tiny, shy thing usually curled up tight inside her, felt safe enough to peek out. She'd sit there, her back against a big tree, and hold her stone. What did it mean? This stone. And why did she feel a strange pull sometimes, like a string tied to her heart, leading somewhere? She didn't know what scared her more, the not knowing, or the idea that knowing might be worse. What followed was usually a quiet cry. Then she'd wipe her tears and go back. Because of that, she learned to be strong on the inside even if she looked weak. She had to survive. Deep down, she knew the truth. Something was different about her. But she pushed that thought away. Far away. It was safer to be nothing. No matter how hard she tried to just be invisible, Cassia always found her. That day, Cassia was full of news, her eyes gleaming. "There's a big party at Silverwood Pack," Cassia announced, looking right at Elara. "Alpha Gregor's birthday. All the important alphas will be there. Even the Alpha Thomas of Stonehaven. I'm still unmated." Cassia puffed out her chest. "An alpha like that needs a strong Omega, not some shadow." As if pulled by a string, Elara's hand went to her stone. A party, with powerful alphas. It sounded like a nightmare. Far away, in the strong Stonehaven pack, Alpha Thomas felt a great weight. He was big and strong, the boss of many wolves. They all looked up to him. Yet, his heart felt like an empty room. For 8 long years, he had looked for his mate, the other half of his soul the moon goddess promised. Each journey ended the same, alone. His big black wolf paced inside him, restless, like a storm trapped in a bottle. Because of that, his smiles were rare, his words often short. "Alpha, you need a Luna," his beta Marcus said one day. Marcus was wise and kind, his fur gray like a soft cloud. "The pack feels your loneliness. It makes them uneasy." Thomas looked out his window at the tall trees of his land. The land was strong, his pack was strong. But what was strength? If your own heart was a cold, empty cave. Truth be told, he was tired of looking. Hope, once a bright fire, was now just dull, gray ash. So, When the invitation came for Alpha Gregor's birthday at Silverwood Pack, Thomas wanted to say no. Another party. More hopeful eyes. More polite talk. What was the use? Still, Marcus pressed. A change of air might be good, Thomas. For you. For the pack's spirit. To make things worse, the elders were starting to whisper too, their old eyes full of worry. An alpha without a Luna was like a sky without a moon, they'd say. Unbalanced. Maybe it was fate that he finally agreed. Fine, Marcus, Thomas rumbled, his voice like distant thunder. We will go, but do not expect miracles. He didn't believe in miracles anymore. His wolf let out a low, mournful groan in his chest, a sound of deep, aching emptiness. What if his other half didn't even exist? The thought was a cold stone in his gut. He pushed it down. He was an alpha. He had to be strong. Eventually, he would find her. Or he would break. The news hit Elara like a cold splash of water. You're coming to Silverwood, orphan, Alpha Boren of Shadow Creek grunted, not even looking at her. Someone needs to carry the extra bags and serve the drinks. And Cassia says you're good at being quiet. Instead of feeling any pride, Elara's stomach twisted. Cassia. Of course Cassia was behind this. Her body moved on instinct, wanting to shrink away, to disappear into the very shadows Cassia named her for. Yes, Alpha, she whispered, her voice barely a breath. Because of that, she knew there was no escape. Cassia smirked, her eyes like shiny, hard chips of ice. Try not to spill anything on the important Alphas, Shadow Girl, Cassia said, her voice dripping sweet poison. Especially not on Alpha Thomas. He's particular. And then Cassia launched into a story. A twisted tale about some lowly Omega from a faraway pack who supposedly caught a visiting Alpha's eye by being clever and useful. Elara knew it was a lie, Cassia told herself, a way to make her own mean plans seem like a path to glory. That night, Elara couldn't sleep. The thought of the party, of all those strange, powerful wolves, made her shiver. With every heartbeat, a sense of dread grew. But there was something else, too. Something she couldn't name. A strange flutter, like a trapped bird in her chest. Her stone, when she held it, felt warmer than usual, almost buzzing. What did it mean? Was this the pull she sometimes felt? Stronger now? Could it be leading her to something? Or was it just fear making her imagine things? She didn't know what scared her more, the party itself, or this strange new feeling inside her. More importantly, she knew she had to go. No matter how hard she tried to think of a way out, there was none. She was just Elara, the orphan Omega. As if fate demanded it, she packed her one spare tunic, her worn-out blanket, and her precious stone. The journey to Silverwood started the next morning. Before she could move to join the others, Cassia bumped her hard. "Stay out of my way, runt," Cassia hissed. Elara just nodded, her eyes on the ground, already bracing for what was to come. The path ahead felt dark and full of unseen dangers, and her heart. It felt like a small, frightened mouse. The party at Silverwood was loud, so very loud. Elara tried to stay near the wall, carrying a tray of drinks. Her hands shook. Just a little. Truth be told, she just wanted to go back to her quiet grove, even if it was lonely. And then, she felt it. A strange hum in the air, like a giant bee was buzzing right next to her ear. Her skin tingled. What followed was a smell. Oh, what a smell. It was like deep, dark woods after rain, and pine trees, and something wild and strong that made her wolf, usually so shy, jump up inside her. And wag its tail. It was the best smell in the whole world. Because of that, her head turned. All by itself. Across the big room, a very tall alpha stood up. He was the biggest wolf she had ever seen. Hair as dark as a midnight sky, and eyes like shiny gold coins. The moment their eyes locked, A big zap went through Elara. It wasn't a bad zap, like lightning that hurts. No, it was a warm zap, like sunshine after a long, cold winter. Her world tilted. The tray in her hands clattered to the stone floor. Sploosh! Drinks went everywhere. Oh no, she didn't know what scared her more, the mess she made, or the way the big Alpha was looking right at her. He wasn't mad. He looked like he had found something he had lost for a very, very long time. Meanwhile, Alpha Thomas felt it too. A scent, like moonflowers and summer rain, hit him so hard he almost stumbled. His breath caught. After 8 long years, "Mate!" his wolf roared inside his head, a sound of pure joy and thunder. Mine! At last! He saw her then, a small Omega girl, eyes wide like a startled fawn, standing in a puddle of spilled drinks. She was young, so young. But his wolf didn't care. His soul didn't care. As if pulled by a string, he started walking towards her. He had to reach her. He had to know she was real. Each step felt like coming home. The big Alpha stopped right in front of Elara. He was so tall she had to crane her neck to see his face. His golden eyes were soft now, but also burning, like a gentle fire. With his scent in the air, so strong and good, Elara felt dizzy. He knelt a little so his eyes were closer to hers, and then he spoke, his voice a low rumble, like soft thunder rolling through the hills. "Mine," he said. Just that one word. But oh, it felt like a giant hug, and a scary cage, all at once. Her heart skipped. Before she could move, other wolves were looking, whispering, pointing. Elara wanted the floor to swallow her up. This was Alpha Thomas of Stonehaven, the one Cassia wanted. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, she heard Cassia gasp, a sharp, angry sound like a cat hissing. Moments later, Alpha Thomas stood up, gently taking Elara's arm. "She is my mate," he announced to the whole room, his voice strong and clear, like a king's. "She will be Luna of Stonehaven." Luna? Her? Elara's head spun. She couldn't be a Luna. She was just Elara, an orphan, a nobody. How could this be happening? Was this a dream? A terrible, wonderful dream. Later that night, when Alpha Thomas had taken her to a quiet room away from the party, Cassia found her. Without warning, Cassia grabbed her arm, her nails digging in like sharp little claws. "You think you've won, Shadow Girl," Cassia hissed, her face ugly with anger. "He's made a mistake. A powerful Alpha like him, with a nothing like you? He'll get tired of you. And then, I'll be there. I'll make you wish you were never born." Elara pulled her arm away, tears stinging her eyes. Because of that, the fear, cold and sharp, stabbed through the warm, fuzzy feeling the Alpha's gaze had given her. This was too much. She wasn't strong enough for this. Come morning, everything was a blur. Alpha Thomas was kind, his golden eyes always watching her like he was afraid she'd float away like a dandelion seed. He told her his name was Thomas. He told her they would go to his home, Stonehaven. Deep down, she knew the truth. She didn't want to go. Stonehaven sounded big and important and scary. Still, what could she do? She was just an Omega, and he was a powerful Alpha who said she was his. No matter how hard she tried to think of a way to say no, the words wouldn't come out. Her own Alpha, born of Shadow Creek, just shrugged when Thomas told him. "She's yours if you want her," Boren said. Like Elara was a sack of potatoes. No one asked Elara. Because of that, a cold knot of despair settled in her tummy. She was trapped. This was her life now. She thought of her secret grove, the feel of her warm stone. Would she ever see them again? As if the world narrowed, all she could see was the path ahead, leading away from everything she knew, even if what she knew was mostly sadness. Soon after, they were leaving Silverwood. Elara rode in a special carriage with Thomas. It was soft inside, much nicer than any bed she'd ever had. Yet, she sat stiff and scared, clutching her small bag with her stone inside. Thomas tried to talk to her, his voice gentle. "Stonehaven is beautiful, Elara," he said. "You will be safe there. I will keep you safe." Safe? How could she be safe when her whole life was being turned upside down by a wolf she didn't even know? Her voice trembled when she tried to answer, so she just nodded. In the quiet that followed, she looked out the window. Trees and hills rushed by, all strange and new. As the sky darkened towards evening, she saw tall, strong gates in the distance, with wolves standing guard. Stonehaven. Her new cage? Or her new home? Her heart pounded like a trapped bird, beating against her ribs, as the carriage rolled closer and closer. Stonehaven wasn't just big. It was like a whole world, carved out of stone and tall whispering pine trees. The main lodge, huge, bigger than any building Elara had ever seen, and warm fires roared in giant fireplaces, making shadows dance like playful spirits. Still, Elara felt a chill, deep in her bones. Because of that, she mostly looked at her own feet. So many wolves lived here, their scents all mixing in the air. Wood smoke, pine, wet earth, and something else. Something that smelled like power. They were all so confident, their steps sure, their voices strong. Elara felt like a tiny, lost field mouse in a den of great, proud lions. She didn't know what scared her more, their size, or the way some of them looked at her. Alpha Thomas stayed close, a warm, solid mountain beside her. His scent, that wonderful smell of deep woods and lightning, was like a little shield. "This will be your home now, Elara," he said, his voice soft for such a big alpha. "These are your rooms." He showed her a chamber bigger than the whole den she'd shared with other Omegas back in Shadow Creek. It had soft furs on the bed, and a window that looked out onto a forest that seemed to stretch forever. Truth be told, it was beautiful, like a princess's room in a story. Yet, it felt like a pretty cage. Could she ever belong here? Moments later, a kind-faced wolf with fur the color of a winter sky came to her. This was Marcus, Thomas's beta. His eyes were gentle, not like the hard, judging eyes of some of the other she-wolves Elara had seen whispering in corners. "Welcome, child," Marcus said, his voice calm like a slow river. "The pack has waited a long time for our alpha to find his heart. We hope you will find peace here." Peace? How could she find peace when her whole body still hummed with the zap of meeting Thomas, and Cassia's mean words still echoed in her ears? As if pulled by a string, her hand went to the stone in her pocket. It felt a little warm again. Maybe, just maybe, Marcus was telling the truth. But the way a tall she-wolf with sharp, hungry eyes watched her from across the great hall, it made Elara's new hope shiver and hide. What followed was days filled with lessons. An old she-wolf named Elara, what a funny thing to have the same name, tried to teach her how to be a Luna. Elara learned about pack laws, very complicated. She learned about Stonehaven's history, very long. She learned how a Luna should walk, how a Luna should talk, how a Luna should be. Truth be told, it was all too much. Her head felt like it was stuffed with dry leaves. The words blurred, the rules confused, the expectations. They crushed her spirit. Because of that, she mostly nodded and whispered, "Yes, Elder Elara," hoping she wouldn't be asked to do anything too grand. How could she be a Luna when she was afraid of her own shadow? To make things worse, the whispers started, soft, like snakes rustling in dry grass, but just as scary. She'd hear them when she walked by other Omegas, or even some of the warrior she-wolves. "So young," one would murmur. "And an Omega. Can she truly lead?" another would hiss. And where did she even come from? No one knows her people. She didn't know what scared her more, failing the lessons, or these whispers that pricked at her skin like tiny, sharp thorns. Maybe it was fate that Cassia's meanness had followed her here, even if Cassia herself was far away. Did Cassia have friends in Stonehaven, spreading poison for her? The thought made Elara's stomach hurt. One day, Elder Elara was showing her how to greet visiting alphas. No matter how hard she tried, Elara's curtsy was wobbly. Her voice, a squeak. Just like that, a precious scroll detailing pack alliances accidentally got knocked into a puddle of water by her trembling hand. Elder Elara sighed, a sound like wind through broken branches. "Child," she said, not unkindly, but with a deep weariness, "a Luna must have grace and strength. The moon goddess chose you for our alpha. You must find these things within yourself." But then, Elara wondered, what if there was nothing inside her, but fear and shadows? The weight of it all felt like a heavy cloak she couldn't take off, pulling her down into the dark. Despite that heavy feeling, something strange happened. One afternoon, Elara was walking past the pack's nursery. Inside, a litter of new pups were crying, a high, sad sound that pulled at her heart. Their mother was away, and the Omega watching them looked tired and worried. Without thinking, Elara stepped inside. The pups were all squirming, whimpering, and then a song came to her lips, a soft, wordless tune she didn't even know she knew. It was like the sad song her own mama used to sing, but this one felt different, calmer, as if summoned by the melody. The crying pups began to quiet. One by one, they settled, their little bodies relaxing. In that moment, the tired Omega stared at Elara with wide eyes. Elara felt a blush creep up her neck. What had she just done? How did she know that song? It was like magic, but not scary magic. It felt nice. But then, the nice feeling didn't last. Later that week, important visitors arrived. Alpha Kael of the Iron Ridge clan. Elara saw him from across the Great Hall. He was tall and handsome, with fur like polished silver and eyes the color of a frozen winter sky. Everyone was being very polite to him. Yet, the moment Elara saw him, a terrible coldness washed over her. Her body moved on instinct, wanting to hide. Her stone, tucked in her pocket, felt like a chip of ice against her leg. This Alpha Kael, he was dangerous. She just knew it, deep in her bones. Why did he make her wolf want to snarl and run away all at once? More importantly, Alpha Kael seemed to notice her too. Under the weight of his stare, Elara felt like a little bug, pinned under a sharp rock. He smiled at her, a slow, thin smile that didn't reach his icy eyes. "Alpha Thomas," Kael said, his voice smooth as silk, but with something sharp hidden underneath, like a knife wrapped in velvet. "You have found yourself a most unique treasure, it seems." He was looking right at Elara, not at her face, but deeper, like he was trying to see her soul. Her breath caught. His gaze felt like cold, slimy fingers, trying to touch something inside her she didn't want anyone to see. This was a new kind of fear, a hunter's gaze. And she knew, with a certainty that chilled her to her very marrow, that this Alpha Kael was a far greater threat than Cassia could ever dream of being.
Alpha Kael was like a silver snake, his words smooth and shiny, but Elara felt a cold poison in them. He found her in the big garden one morning when Thomas was busy with pack work. And then he started talking, his voice soft, like a cat's purr. "Little Omega," he said, his icy eyes looking deep into hers. "You seem lost here. Does the great Alpha Thomas truly understand? A delicate flower like you? Does he know your heart's secret wishes?" Elara wanted to run. Her body moved on instinct, taking a step back. His smile, like a winter frost. Pretty, but deadly. Because of that, she just shook her head, her throat too tight for words. What followed was Thomas appearing, as if summoned by her fear. He moved like a dark storm between her and Kael. His golden eyes were not soft now. They were burning, like angry suns. With his scent in the air, strong and protective, Elara felt a tiny bit braver. "Kael," Thomas rumbled, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "My mate is not for your conversation." More importantly, his arm went around Elara's shoulders, pulling her close against his warm, strong side. It felt so safe there, like a shield. She didn't know what scared her more, Kael's cold smile, or the fierce, scary power coming off Thomas. "Just admiring Stonehaven's treasures, Alpha Thomas," Kael said, his voice still silky smooth, but his eyes held a flicker of something else. Anger? Hunger? Truth be told, Elara didn't want to know. As if pulled by a string, she leaned into Thomas, hiding her face a little in his fur. His fur smelled like pine trees and safety. Maybe it was fate that made her trust this big, scary alpha more than the silver one. Because of that small act, Thomas's arm tightened, a silent promise. Kael watched them, his thin smile never leaving his face, and Elara knew, with a shiver, that this was not over. Not by a long shot. This silver snake. He was just waiting for his chance to strike. And the thought made her heart pound like a trapped drum. A beat later, after Kael had gone back to his rooms, Beta Marcus came to find them. His kind face looked worried, his gray fur almost bristling. "Alpha," he said to Thomas, his voice low and serious. "Elara, child, we need to talk about your stone, and what Kael might truly be after." So they went to Thomas's private study, a room filled with books and maps, and the scent of old leather. Elara sat on a small stool, Thomas close beside her, his big hand resting on her shoulder. It was warm, but she still felt cold inside. What did Marcus mean? What followed was a story that made Elara's blood run like ice water. Marcus spoke of ancient legends, of special omegas called Nexus Omegas, or Luna Queens. He said these omegas had a special magic. They could make their alpha mates stronger, their packs unbreakable. They could feel the pack's heart, heal hurts with a touch or a song. And sometimes they could even glimpse what was to come. Because of that, they were very, very rare, and very, very hunted. Many believed they were all gone, lost to time and fear. Marcus looked at Elara, his eyes full of a sad kindness. "Child," he said softly, "your mother, she was from a hidden line, the Moonflower Guardians. They protected the last of the Nexus blood, and Kael is known as a hunter of such lines." In that moment, Elara's world tilted and cracked. Her mother's song, her stone, the way the pups had calmed. Oh no, no. Her breath caught. Her mother's last words screamed in her memory, "Hide who you are, little bloom." As the truth unraveled, tears streamed down Elara's face. This was why her pack was burned. This was why her mama died. Because of her. Because of this scary magic inside her. She was a curse. She brought death. "No," she whispered, shaking her head, her whole body trembling. "It can't be." Thomas's hand tightened on her shoulder, his presence a solid anchor in her spinning, terrifying new reality. But how could he want her, now that he knew she was a magnet for monsters?
That night, Elara couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The Nexus Omega, a Luna Queen, hunted her. Truth be told, it felt like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. And then she heard raised voices from the Great Hall, Thomas's deep rumble, angry now, like a real storm, and Kael's smooth, cold tones. Her body moved on instinct, creeping to the doorway, hiding in the shadows. She had to know. "You knew what she was when you arrived, Kael," Thomas snarled. Elara could almost feel the power rolling off him, hot and dangerous. You've been hunting her kind for years, haven't you? You destroyed the Moonflower Pack." As the silence stretched, Kael's voice came, cool, amused. "They were obstacles. The girl is a nexus, Thomas. A power like that needs a strong hand to guide it. A hand like mine. She is wasted on a sentimental fool like you." Between them, something cracked in Elara's heart. Not just fear anymore, but a hot, sharp anger. This silver wolf, this monster, had killed her family, her pack, and now he wanted her? Because of that insult to Thomas and the memory of her mother's face, something inside Elara shifted. More importantly, Kael went on, his voice like a silken threat. "She will come with me, Thomas. One way or another. A power like hers. It sings to me, and I always get what I want." Elara saw Thomas's fists clench, his whole body tight with fury. He was going to fight for her, a broken, cursed Omega. In that moment, a new feeling sparked in Elara's chest. Small, but fierce. It wasn't just fear, it was resolve. This Kael, this hunter with crimson eyes from her nightmares, he had taken everything from her once. Deep down, she knew the truth. She couldn't let him do it again. She couldn't let him hurt Thomas. Or Stonehaven. No matter how hard she tried to stay a scared little mouse, a tiny wolf inside her, her true wolf, was starting to wake up and bare its teeth. The fight was coming, and this time, she wouldn't just hide. The truth about being a Nexus Omega. It was a giant, scary monster living in Elara's head. Still, something else was there too. Thomas. His golden eyes, when he looked at her, weren't full of fear or blame. They were full of, well, she wasn't sure what it was, but it made her feel warm, like sunshine on a cold stone. So, Elara started to try. No matter how hard she tried to stay hidden in her fear, a tiny part of her wanted to reach for that warmth. She started to really listen during Luna lessons with Elder Elara. One day, 2 pack members were arguing, their words like angry, snapping dogs. Without thinking, Elara felt a wave of their hurt feelings, and she whispered to Elder Elara, Maybe the brown one is just sad because he misses his old den?" Elder Elara looked at her, surprised, and then nodded slowly. It turned out Elara was right. How did she know that? Was this the Nexus magic? More importantly, she started to lean into the invisible string that tied her to Thomas. With his scent in the air, which she could always find now, no matter where he was in the lodge, the scary Kael monster in her head got a little smaller. She felt his strength, she felt his warmth, she felt his unwavering belief in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. Because of that, she started to sleep a little better, even if Kael's silver eyes still haunted the edges of her dreams. Truth be told, Kael was always watching. Always. She'd feel his cold gaze on her sometimes, like icy fingers down her back, even when she couldn't see him. Did he know she was trying to be brave? Did he know she was learning about who she was? One evening, Thomas found her by the big window, looking out at the moon. As the silence stretched between them, he gently took her hand. His was so big and warm around hers. "You are doing well, Elara," he murmured, his voice a soft rumble. "You are stronger than you think." Her heart skipped. Could it be true? Could she really be strong? Maybe it was fate that she was here, with him. Despite that tiny spark of hope, Kael's shadow felt like it was always there, waiting. The feeling that something bad was about to happen. It was a cold stone in her tummy, never quite going away. What followed was a week of uneasy quiet. Kael was polite, almost invisible, but then the quiet broke. One afternoon, a young Omega Elara had been kind to, named Finn, stumbled into the main hall, his face pale with terror. "Alpha Kael, he wants to see Elara." Finn stammered, his eyes wide and scared. He said, "If she doesn't come to the old Willow Creek by the river, alone, he'll..." He'll start hurting pack members. He said he knows how much Alpha Thomas cares. In that moment, Elara's blood ran cold. A trap. Kael was using Finn, using her friends. Because of that, a terrible choice slammed into her. She didn't know what scared her more, facing Kael or letting him hurt Stonehaven because of her. She thought of her mother, dying to save her. She thought of Thomas, his fierce protection, his gentle eyes. He would never let her go. He would fight Kael. And Kael was strong. So strong. Thomas might get hurt, or worse. Deep down, she knew the truth. Kael wanted her. Only her. No matter how hard she tried to think of another way, there was only one path she could see to keep them safe. As if pulled by a string, she made her decision. It was a horrible, aching decision, like tearing out a piece of her own heart. Moments later, she found a quiet corner and scribbled a hasty note on a piece of bark with a charred stick. Thomas. I am sorry. This is my fault. I have to stop him. Don't come after me. Be safe. Elara. She tucked it under his pillow, her tears blurring the words. Because of that act, she felt a strange mix of terror and a sad, heavy peace. She was doing this for them. For Stonehaven. For Thomas. Her body moved on instinct, slipping out of the lodge while everyone was busy with evening meal preparations. The path to Willow Creek was dark and shadowy, like her own future. With every step she took towards Kael, she felt like she was walking away from the only sunshine she had ever known. Willow Creek was dark, the trees like tall, spooky ghosts under the rising moon. And then, Kael stepped out from behind a big old willow tree, his silver fur almost glowing. His smile was back, cold and sharp. Clever little Omega, he purred. You came. I knew you valued your new Alpha. Before Elara could speak, before she could offer herself, a roar ripped through the night, a sound like thunder and pure rage. Without warning, Thomas burst from the trees, a black blur of fury, his golden eyes blazing like fire. Two of his biggest warriors were with him. He must have found her note. Oh no, this wasn't what she wanted. Kael! Thomas Essaja snarled, his voice a terrifying sound. You will not touch her! What followed was a storm of fur and claws and angry snarls. Kael was strong, so strong and fast, his movements like silver lightning. He laughed, a cold, cruel sound, as he dodged Thomas's attacks. She is a nexus, Thomas, a prize. You can't protect her forever. Because of that taunt, Thomas lunged again, a blur of black fur and fury. The fighting was terrible. Elara had never seen anything so scary. The air filled with the smell of blood, an angry wolf. Her chest ached with fear for Thomas. More importantly, Kael was different now. No more smooth words, no more fake smiles. His face was twisted in a snarl, his icy eyes full of a hunger that made Elara sick. This was the real Kael, the monster from her nightmares. Eventually, after a terrible, bloody fight where Thomas's warriors were hurt and Thomas himself took a deep cut to his shoulder, Kael was pushed back. He was bleeding too. This isn't over, Thomas, Kael hissed, his silver fur matted with dark blood. The Nexus will be mine. Stonehaven will burn for this insult. And then, with a final hateful glare at Elara, he and his remaining wolves melted back into the shadows. In the quiet that followed, broken only by panting breaths and the whimpers of the injured, Elara rushed to Thomas's side. The taste of blood and Kael's terrible promise of war hung heavy in the cold night air, a grim omen for them all, and for... Without warning, the world exploded. One moment, Elara was in the Stonehaven Great Hall, Thomas's hand warm on her arm, discussing defenses. The next, a terrible crash shook the very stones beneath their feet. Screams! The scent of blood and burning wood filled the air, sharp and horrible, just like in her nightmares. Kael, he was attacking. Not just a few warriors this time. Oh no. This was an army. As if pulled by a string, Elara's eyes found Thomas. His face, a mask of fury. To your posts, he roared, his alpha voice booming over the sudden chaos. Protect the dens! Protect the Luna! Luna. That was her. And this was happening because of her. What followed was a blur of terror and noise. From a high window, hidden by Marcus, Elara watched the battle rage outside the main gates. Kael's wolves, silver and black shadows, moved like a hungry, evil river. They crashed against the Stonehaven warriors. Even so, the Stonehaven wolves fought like lions, their sasnarls tearing the air, their bodies strong and brave. But then, she saw them fall, one by one, brave defenders, who were trying to protect her. Her chest ached with a terrible pain. Fire bloomed in the outer village, screams echoed in the smoky air, hope died, with every warrior who didn't get back up. Was this her fault? Had she brought this doom upon them, just like her mother's pack? Because of that thought, a cold, sick feeling twisted in Elara's stomach. She wanted to scream, to run out there, to tell Kael to take her, and leave them alone. But then Marcus's firm hand was on her shoulder. Stay here, child. You are the heart of this pack now. If you fall, we all fall. Truth be told, his words felt like heavy stones, not comfort. She didn't know what scared her more, the fighting outside, or the terrible crushing weight of being the reason for it all. The battle raged on, a horrible song of death and destruction, and Elara could only watch, her heart breaking with every lost Stonehaven life. Moments later, the sounds of fighting got closer, too close, and then a section of the Great Hall's back wall exploded inwards, not from an outside attack, but from inside their defenses. Dust and smoke filled the air. Through the haze, Elara saw a Stonehaven wolf she knew. A quiet guard named Loras, one who had always smiled at her, step aside, his eyes downcast. As Kael himself strode into the room, flanked by two massive Iron Ridge warriors. Loras. He had betrayed them. How could he? Why? Because of that betrayal, a clear path was open, right to her. Thomas roared from across the hall, fighting his way through Kael's encroaching wolves. Elara, run! His voice was raw with fury and fear. For her? As if the world narrowed, all Elara could see was Kael's cold silver eyes locking onto hers, his lips curved in that terrible thin smile. No more running, little Nexus, he purred, his voice like ice and silk. Before Elara could move, before Thomas could reach her, Kael's warriors were on her. Strong hands grabbed her arms, rough, cruel. She screamed Thomas's name, a sound torn from her soul. What followed was the sight of Thomas, his face a mask of agony, being forced back by three of Kael's biggest brutes, his golden eyes burning into hers with a promise of rescue, a promise she didn't believe he could keep. More importantly, Kael was beside her now, his scent cold and predatory. He cannot save you, Kael whispered, his breath cold against her ear. You are mine now, as you were always meant to be. Because of that pronouncement, the last bit of fight drained out of Elara. She was dragged away, her feet stumbling, her heart, a dead thing in her chest. She saw Stonehaven warriors falling. She saw the flames licking higher. She saw Thomas's anguished face as he fought to reach her, only to be struck down. A blow that made her own world go dark, for a moment. Deep down, she knew the truth. This was the end. The monster had won, and it was all her fault. Eventually, when Elara could see again, she was in a cage, a real cage, with cold iron bars, in a dark, damp room that smelled like old stones, and something dead. Kael's lair. It was far from Stonehaven. She could feel it. The air was different, colder. She was alone. Utterly. Alone. Her stone. Thomas had it. She remembered giving it to him to keep safe during the chaos, a desperate plea for him to stay safe himself. Now, without its familiar weight, she felt even more lost. Was Thomas okay? Oh, please, Moon Goddess, and let him be okay. Her thoughts spun in a dizzy, sick circle. That night, Kael came to her. He didn't try to touch her. He just stood outside the bars, his silver fur like moonlight on a tombstone. "You see, little Nexus?" he said, his voice a soft, cruel caress. "This is your destiny. Not with that sentimental Stonehaven Alpha, but with me. I understand power. I understand your power." He told her stories then. Terrible stories of other Nexus Omegas he had found. How they had helped him build his strength. His Iron Ridge clan. He made it sound like a good thing. Like a duty. But then, his eyes would gleam with that cold hunger, and Elara knew it was all lies. Because of that, she remembered her mother's warning. Hide who you are. Had her mother known this would happen? Had she tried to save Elara from this terrible fate? No matter how hard she tried to find a spark of hope, there was only darkness. Kael's words were like poison, seeping into her, making her believe she was just a thing, a source of power for him to use. "Thomas is defeated," Kael said one evening, his voice flat. "Stonehaven is broken, all because they tried to keep what was mine." As the silence roared in the tiny cell, Elara curled up, her body aching, her heart a shattered ruin. He was right. It was all her fault. She was a curse, a monster. The crimson eyes from her nightmares were Kael's eyes, and they had finally, truly, consumed her. There was no hope left, just the cold, empty, dark. In the stillness that followed Kael's cruel words, Elara lay on the cold floor of her cage, a broken doll. He was right. She was a curse. And then, a tiny warmth spread through her chest, faint, like a distant star. But there, Thomas, it had to be Thomas. She felt it, clear as day, a whisper of his strength, his love, that invisible string between them still humming, even through all this darkness. He was alive. He was fighting. Because of that tiny spark, something inside her, something small and stubborn that Kael hadn't snuffed out, uncurled. Her mother's words echoed. Hide who you are. Survive. Survive. For what? To be Kael's toy? No. Survive to fight. Survive to be who she was meant to be. What followed was a new feeling. Not hope. Not yet. But defiance. A tiny, angry ember glowing in the ashes of her despair. So she started to watch. To listen. Kael was so sure he had won. Because of that arrogance, he was sometimes careless. His guards changed at certain times. They grumbled about the long watches. One of them, a young wolf with sad eyes, always looked away when he brought her food. Was he just scared? Or was there something else there? More importantly, Elara started to feel again. Not just the cold of the cage, but the hum of Kael's fortress, the thrum of the earth beneath it. And sometimes, if she closed her eyes very tight and thought of Thomas, she could almost feel the faint warmth of her lost stone, as if he were holding it, thinking of her. Maybe it was fate that Kael came to her cell again, his silver fur gleaming. Still pining for your broken alpha, little Nexus, he purred, his voice like a cold knife. He cannot help you. No one can. But then, Elara looked up at him, and for the first time, there was no fear in her eyes, just a cold, quiet anger. She would not break. She would not yield. She would not let Kael win. Her wolf pressed forward inside her, a tiny growl in her soul. He didn't hear it, but Elara did, and it was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. The fight wasn't over, it was just waiting for its moment to truly begin. Days later, or was it weeks? Time was a blur in the dim light. Elara felt a change in the air. Kael was agitated. He paced more. His guards were jumpier. Truth be told, something was happening outside these stone walls. She could feel it. A faint tremor of hope through that invisible string to Thomas. He was coming for her. He had to be. Because of that feeling, Elara focused, trying to push a thought, a feeling, anything, down that string. I am here. I am alive. I am waiting. She remembered an old Stonehaven story Marcus had told her about a trapped Luna who used her unique pack song to guide her alpha to her. Elara didn't have a song like that, did she? Or did she? That tune she hummed for the pups. Meanwhile, far away but drawing closer, Thomas was not broken. Instead, he was a storm of focused rage and icy determination. His shoulder ached from Kael's blow, but his heart ached more, for Elara. With Marcus at his side and his most loyal Stonehaven warriors, they made a plan. A desperate, dangerous plan. Even so, they had to try. Because of that, they gathered what little information they had. The sad-eyed young guard from Kael's fortress? He had been a Stonehaven pup, stolen years ago. And seeing Elara, so like the kind Luna of his fragmented memories, had stirred his conscience. He'd risked everything to get a message out, a crude map of Kael's defenses, before disappearing himself. What a brave thing to do. Was he caught? Elara prayed not. More importantly, Elara, in her cell, felt a new kind of energy from Kael's guards. Fear. They were scared. Which meant Thomas was close. She had to do something. Anything to help. She didn't know what scared her more. Them failing, or her not being able to help them succeed. She started to hum her mother's lullaby, the one that calmed the pups, pouring all her longing, all her hope into the faint, almost silent notes. Praying it would be a beacon, a whisper on the wind only her mate could truly hear. The air in her cell seemed to shimmer faintly around her as she sang. That night, the air in Kael's fortress was thick, with a new, sharp tension. Guards hurried through the stone halls, their claws clicking nervously. Kael himself was a silver shadow, his earlier arrogance replaced by a coiled, waiting stillness. He knew. He knew they were coming. As if pulled by a string, Elara felt Thomas's presence, closer now than ever before. He was here, inside the walls. Her heart pounded like a war drum. With every heartbeat, she focused on that invisible string, pouring all her desperate hope and love into it. I'm here, Thomas. This way. At the same time, Thomas and his team moved like ghosts through the dark, cold corridors of Kael's fortress. The map from the young guard had been true. Still, it was a maze, and every shadow could hide an enemy. Because of that, they moved slow, careful. Thomas's wolf was a raging fire banked low, ready to explode. He could smell Elara, faint but true, like a single moonflower in a world of stone and despair. His mate, he would tear Kael apart with his bare teeth. But then, they reached a heavily guarded corridor. Too many to fight silently. How would they get through? In that moment, deep in her cell, Elara felt a surge of something. A power, warm and bright, pushing up from inside her. Her mother's lullaby was on her lips again, but this time, it wasn't just a hum. It was a silent call. She focused on the corridor she'd seen the guards patrol most, the one leading to the deeper dungeons. And then, the torches in that distant hallway flickered wildly. One by one, they sputtered and died, plunging it into sudden, confusing darkness. Shouts of surprise echoed. Without warning, alarms began to clang through the fortress, as if fate demanded it. The distraction worked. Thomas and his warriors surged forward in the chaos. Moments later, Elara heard it, the crash of her cell door splintering. Thomas stood there, a magnificent, terrifying alpha, his golden eyes blazing, his scent flooding her senses like a homecoming. Before either could speak, a cold, amused voice echoed from the shadows behind him. Touching, Alpha Thomas. Truly. But she is still mine. Kael. The final battle was about to begin.
Kael's cold laugh echoed in the ruined chamber. You think you've won, Tom? She is mine. And then, he lunged, Not at Thomas, but at Elara. He wanted to grab her, to control her. But then, Thomas was there, a black-furred storm. Slamming into Kael with a roar that shook the stones, the fight was on. Fast, brutal. Claws flashed, teeth snapped. It was a terrible dance of death. Elara watched, her heart a wild bird in her chest. Kael was strong, so fast, his silver fur a blur. He landed a hard blow and Thomas stumbled, a pained oof escaping him. In that moment, something inside Elara snapped. Not fear, not anymore. It was fire. Her mother's voice whispered in her memory. Hide who you are until you are strong enough to be who you are. And just like that, everything changed. She was strong enough now, because of that love for Thomas, for Stonehaven, for the memory of her own lost pack. Elara stood tall. The Nexus power, that scary monster, uncoiled inside her. Not as a monster, but as a warm, bright light. A light like 1,000 moonflowers blooming all at once. No! She screamed, her voice ringing with a power she didn't know she had. He is my mate. This is my pack, and you will not hurt them anymore. What followed was light. Pure silver gold light poured from Elara, wrapping around Thomas like a warm shield, healing the cut on his shoulder in a heartbeat. His eyes widened, then blazed with new strength. As her wolf stirred, Elara felt her power reach out, not just to Thomas, but to the loyal Stonehaven warriors fighting Kael's guards. She felt their hurts, their fears, and she sent them strength, courage, and healing. As if summoned, they fought with new fury. Kael stared at her, his icy eyes wide with shock, then rage. This power, it should be mine, he shrieked. But then Thomas, filled with her light and his own mighty strength, slammed into Kael one last time. There was a terrible sound, like stone breaking, and Kael, the mighty hunter, fell and did not get up. In the quiet that followed, Thomas turned to Elara, his golden eyes full of awe, and so much love it made her own heart sing. The monster was gone. She was free. After that, the fighting stopped. Kael's remaining warriors, their alpha gone, dropped their weapons, their silver fur dull in the torchlight. They looked lost. Truth be told, Elara felt a little sorry for them, even after all they had done. They were just following a bad leader. So Thomas, his arm around Elara, his body leaning on her just a bit, gave his orders. The Iron Ridge wolves were to be taken as prisoners, but treated fairly. Stonehaven was not like Iron Ridge. Because of that, a quiet respect settled over the battered hall. More importantly, Elara went to the wounded. Not just Stonehaven wolves, but even some of Kael's younger ones who looked more scared than mean. Her body moved on instinct. That warm silver gold light flowed from her hands, mending torn skin, easing pain, calming fear. It wasn't like the scary, uncontrolled zap from before. This was gentle, strong, like a river of healing. Marcus watched her, his old eyes shining with tears and pride. A true Luna queen, he murmured. And then they found Loris, the guard who had betrayed them. He was tied up, his head hanging in shame. What should they do with him? She didn't know what scared her more, his betrayal, or the thought of having to decide his fate. But then Thomas spoke, his voice tired but firm. He broke pack law. He will face pack justice. Which meant he would be judged fairly. But the pack would decide. And then they found the young Stonehaven pup Kael had stolen years ago, the one who sent the map. He was hiding, scared, but alive. Elara rushed to him, her light soothing his terror. You're safe now, she whispered, and he leaned into her, a small, grateful whimper escaping him. As for Cassia, word came that she had been seen fleeing Kael's fortress before the battle even truly began. A coward to the end. Good riddance. Maybe it was fate that some wounds would heal with magic. and some would just fade with time. The long night was over, and a new day was dawning, though the scars would remain. Soon after, they returned to Stonehaven. The pack was battered, yes, but not broken. In fact, when they saw Elara walking beside their Alpha, her silver gold light still faintly glowing around her, a great cheer went up. They knew she was special, their Luna Queen. Because of that, the rebuilding of their homes and their spirits began with a new hope, a new strength. Elara worked alongside them, her healing touch and her calm presence a balm to their weary souls. She wasn't just Thomas's mate anymore. She was theirs. What followed was the most beautiful night Elara had ever known. Under the full fat belly of the moon goddess, Thomas led her to the heart of Stonehaven, to an ancient circle of stones that hummed with old magic. The whole pack was there, their eyes shining. And then, Thomas turned to her. "Elara," he said, his voice thick with love. "My mate, my heart, my Luna Queen." He didn't have a fancy crown, but his words were more precious than any gold. He gently licked the spot above her heart, and as fire bloomed beneath her skin, a beautiful glowing mark appeared there, like intertwined moonflowers and starlight. At the same time, her mark on him over his heart blazed just as brightly. They were truly one. More importantly, Elara then turned to the pack. Her voice, once a timid whisper, was now clear and strong, carrying her love for them all. "Stonehaven," she said, her silver gold light embracing them. "You are my pack now, my family. Together, we will heal. Together, we will be strong." Because of that promise, a great howl of joy and acceptance rose to the moon. Truth be told, Elara finally felt like she belonged, like she was home. As the echo faded, Thomas pulled her into a deep, loving kiss, a kiss that promised forever. And so, beneath the watchful eyes of the moon goddess, the Alpha and his Nexus heart began their reign, their love a beacon for generations to come, a testament to the strength found in healing, in unity, and in a love that could conquer even the darkest of shadows. Epilogue. 2 winters had turned Stonehaven's peaks white, and 2 summers had warmed its valleys, painting them with wild moonflowers that now seemed to bloom brighter than ever before. And then, another spring had arrived, soft and green. Elara stood on a hill overlooking the main Stonehaven den, a small, warm hand tucked into hers. Beside her, Thomas, her Alpha, her mate, her heart, watched their son, Ronan, named for a brave wolf Lyra had loved, chase a butterfly with clumsy, joyful puppy steps. Ronan's fur was dark like his father's, but his eyes held a hint of his mother's silver gold light. Because of that mix, everyone said he was special. Truth be told, Elara felt a peace so deep, it was like the calmest river. Stonehaven was thriving. The scars from Kael's attack had faded, both on the land and in the hearts of its people. Her Nexus power, once a terrifying secret, was now a gentle song that flowed through her, helping her heal hurts, soothe fears, and understand the quiet needs of her pack. More importantly, she wasn't afraid of it anymore. Her mother's words, "Hide who you are until you are strong enough to be who you are," were now a comfort, a reminder of a love that had saved her. As if pulled by a string, she often thought of that brave young guard who had sent the map. He was now a respected member of Thomas's honor guard, his past pain eased by belonging, and Loris the betrayer. He had faced pack justice, and was serving a long, quiet exile, a sad lesson for all. In fact, Elara sometimes visited a new hidden grove she'd found, high in the Stonehaven Mountains. It wasn't a place to hide from sadness anymore. Instead, it was a place to feel the sun on her face, and remember how far she had come. From a scared, bullied orphan, to a Luna Queen. From a girl terrified of her own shadow, to a wolf who could stand in the light. She didn't know what scared her more back then, the darkness, or the idea of her own light. But now she knew. Deep down, she knew the truth. Her light was a gift, meant to be shared. That night, curled beside Thomas in their big, warm bed, with little Ronan asleep in his own den nearby, Elara listened to the sounds of her pack settling for the night. The soft murmurs, the occasional happy yip, the steady beat of Thomas's heart beneath her ear. Because of that love, that safety, that belonging, her own heart was full. "I love you, Thomas," she whispered into his fur. He nuzzled her, his answer a deep, contented rumble. Maybe it was fate that had brought them together through so much pain and fear. No matter how hard she tried to imagine a life without him, without Stonehaven, she couldn't. This was her home. This was her pack. This was her love. And it was more beautiful than any dream. The crimson eyes were just a forgotten nightmare now, chased away by the golden light of her alpha and the silver gold glow of her own. Finally free. Nexus heart.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed what you saw, we've got a whole library of other videos packed with more great content just like this waiting for you on our channel. So, why not dive into another one right now? And hey, if you want to make sure you don't miss out on our next upload, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. We'd love to have you join our community and see you in the next video. Thanks again.